What color jersey will Sidney Crosby be wearing?
Oh,
Because it won't be black and gold and white.
Stop that!
Is
Stop
it?
it!
ما في وقت للعب 9-1 كونتينيو يجي نار من استوديو نطني ولا لاجئ شولف.
We are joined by NHL insider David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period. And last week, we mentioned that the 5 players who were acquitted for sexual assault will be eligible to play in the NHL later this season. David, you heard that a team has kicked the tires on looking at Carter Hart. Who is that team and why?
There's a few teams. There's a few teams that have been engaged and have reached out now to varying degrees. There are a lot of teams that are now denying it publicly,
Okay.
but there are a number of teams that have, in some capacity, reached out to inquire about Carter Hart's availability. I know Kyle Dubas with the Penguins said he hadn't. I know the Penguins have, so maybe somebody else in the organization has. Utah's been engaged. Carolina's been engaged. Philly, although they were told no, he's going in a different direction. Other teams that have reached out: Minnesota, Nashville, Vegas. They've poked around as well. There are other clubs. I also mentioned I thought that San Jose was one of those teams as well, but that's not the case. That I was able to later confirm. But there are a lot of teams that have reached out on Carter Hart to see what the availability is like and just what type of contract he'd be looking to get. I don't anticipate this being a 1-year, $1 million contract. You're probably looking at a couple of years. And it's probably going to be $3-4 million a year kind of thing, maybe even higher depending on how things get negotiated. But there's interest in Hart. I anticipate him locking into a team or committing to a team by October 1st. And then, because players are able to do that, those 5 guys are able to commit to a team and agree to something in advance of the 15th, and that's when they can formally sign.
Where do you expect him to be, Carter Hart, to be in terms of his physical abilities? Because he hasn't played like a game really in like over a year. I know he's been training and doing what he can, but like, let's just say he signs and he's with the team, pretty quickly. Right. Is it feasible that he could play and be like productive this season and lead a team potentially into the playoffs?
I mean, if he comes into any environment that he comes in, at best, it's going to be a platoon scenario. And it's going to take him probably half a season to get into that game mode, into game shape. Like you said, he's been practicing, and he's been skating, I think, in Nashville for most of his time away from the ice. But to get to game readiness, it's going to take, more than a regular training camp, which he is not able to partake in. So he can commit to a team by the 15th. He can't join that club for, game day practices and things like that until November 15th, and then obviously eligible to play December 1st. But it's probably going to take him, again, platoon type scenario, probably going to take him at least half of a season. So for him, you're probably looking at February, March, after the Olympic break, before he kind of gets into his stride.
The Capitals have placed assistant coach Mitch Love on administrative leave as the NHL investigates improper behavior from Love. He was supposed to be a potential head coach somewhere. He was doing interviews. Yeah. What information do you have about that?
Yeah, you're right. He was interviewing for a number of different vacancies for head coaching roles. There's the issue that's related to him, and I don't know. I don't know how much I can really say, to be honest, because there is an ongoing NHL investigation, and I don't know the full facts of everything, but I do know that there's an individual from a previous relationship that he was engaged in years ago that started to contact some of the teams that he was interviewing with, and that caused obviously a bit of a stir. The league started to investigate this, and this goes back to the spring. The league started to investigate things, and that's been ongoing up until that point. I think letters were sent to Pittsburgh and Seattle, to places that he was, applying for, and the Capitals were well aware of that situation as well. So I think as the investigation has continued, the Capitals felt it was, given the circumstances, in the best interest of everyone to put him on leave until the investigation concludes and the league and everybody involved in that comes to some type of conclusion.
Pags, I want to ask you about the two most interesting storylines, I think, in the NHL right now, the Kirill Kaprizov situation and the Connor McDavid situation. So one thing I'm really curious about with Kaprizov specifically is, let's say McDavid does eventually sign, which it doesn't seem like he's going to sign anytime soon, in my opinion, maybe even at all this year. And let's say he takes a team-friendly deal around that $16 million mark that Kaprizov just turned down reportedly. How is that going to affect Kaprizov? And is he possibly risking screwing himself out of a lot of money here by passing on this 8x16?
I don't think so, because I'm of the belief that Connor's going to re-sign in Edmonton, and it'll be a shorter-term deal. I don't expect a full 8-year term. I mean, I don't expect 6 or 7. If you go 6 or 7, you might as well just go the full 8. So I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting 2, 3, 4 years as a bit of a feeling out to see how this team is going to do and how they're going to kind of reshape part of this roster in the coming years. So I anticipate that being around that $17 million mark over a shorter term deal. More term you get, more dollars are attributed. Certainly. So I don't think Kaprizov kind of screwed himself out of this big ticket. He's still going to cash in heavily. He spoke the other day and was just saying, look, this is my second home. I like it here. Everybody knows I like it here. There's plenty of time to figure this out. Now, which leads me to believe one of two things. One, maybe he's considering short term, as he wants to see how this team does moving forward before committing to a full 8, which will eventually be a max of 7 years. Or maybe they are fighting for more dollars. With the way that the salary cap is going up, it's projected to go up to 104. It's at $95.5 million now. Next season's cap is projected to go to 104, and the following year is projected to go to 113.5. I keep saying projected because there's a good chance that based on how revenues go over this season, that may increase. If that continues to increase and the numbers continue to go skyward, and with the prospect of the league expanding, which doesn't contribute to HRR, the expansion fees, but everything else does, the cap may jump significantly more within a 5-year period, within at least this next CBA. So he may say, well, okay, I'm willing to commit long-term, but if I'm taking $16 million now, that's going to be equivalent to like $19 million in 6 or 7 years. So let's find a happy medium. There's a possibility that that's part of the equation as well. And that's what his agent, Paul Theophanos, may be fighting for, to say, look, yeah, 16 looks big now, but in a few years, not so much, given the caliber of player. And if they believe him and the team believe he's going to be around a 100-point guy consistently, maybe it's 17 that they're pushing for.
All right, so let's say they can't get a deal done in Minnesota. I'm looking at Carolina, and they seem to want to be aggressive with their roster. Could we see no? No, they're not going to. Are they going to try to trade?
I was agreeing with you. I was agreeing with you.
My apologies there. Do you see Carolina possibly trading for Kaprizov?
I think so. Some teams have reached out to say, hey, if you get to a point where you want to trade him, give us a call. And I think Carolina is one of those teams. So I think there's an appetite to do it. It comes with an extension, kind of like I think they've learned that from the Rantanen scenario, where if you're trading for that caliber player, it's got to come with an extension. So we'll see kind of, obviously where this unfolds. First, they got to figure out if they can get a deal done. If it's concluded that they can't, then I think Billy Guerin, their GM, and everybody in Minnesota has to go on the offensive in terms of trying to move this piece out. But I think Carolina would definitely have significant interest. Now, you trade Kirill Kaprizov, you're going to want a premium back. The premium's probably a home run, even though they'll want a grand slam. And I don't see a team willing to give up a grand slam, because they can just say, well, the hell with it. We'll just wait a year and try to sign him as a free agent. Now, there's risk that he gets traded somewhere else and commits to another team. The point is, Minnesota, if they do decide to trade him, will get a good return, but it won't be an astronomical return because of where he is contractually. So not the greatest, the most optimal of situations for the Wild if it comes to that, but it's not going to be detrimental to the organization if they do decide that they have no other choice but to go this route. But I think Carolina would absolutely have interest. I think the New York Rangers would definitely have interest. I think you're looking at 20 teams that would probably have legitimate interest in at least exploring the possibility of getting their hands on Kirill Kaprizov.
10 words or less, Pegs. You said you expect the Oilers to re-sign McDavid. When does it happen?
I don't know. It's honestly, it's up to him, man. It's when he's comfortable, he's ready to go, and the Oilers are just saying, you tell us when, and we'll figure it out.
Dave, I want to ask you about the Rangers. Kind of surprised by how down of a year they had last year. Not a very busy offseason. They lost Keandre Miller. They lost Chris Kreider. However, they have a big decision coming up with Artemi Panarin, who's going to be UFA after the season. What's going on with the Rangers? Are they turning it around? Are they going to maybe blow it up and let Panarin go? What do you foresee for the Rangers happening?
I don't think there's any blow-up scenario there because I don't think Jimmy Dolan would let that happen. They tried going through their little quasi-rebuild, and then they got the lottery, and then they won that and got Lafreniere, and they escalated things. I just don't see that type of scenario. Now, I do think they'll wait a bit to see how the season goes before they determine whether or not they want to lock in Panarin long-term. I know they'd love to keep him, but some people believe they may wait to determine how the season goes before they make that determination. Like for example, if they do get in on Kaprizov, if the Wild decide to trade him, well, they have the same agent, him and Panarin, so I'm sure that's going to be a bit of a factor there.
Ooh.
And it's probably going to cost you a package that includes Lafreniere. So they're going to have to decide what route they want to take. I think they want to, in terms of making big impact, and I'm saying this, and they may make a huge trade tomorrow, but the sense that I've gotten for now has been they kind of want to wait to see how the season goes, at least in the first half, to get a good indication of where they're at. Is Panarin going to go back to 90, 100-point form? Is Zibanejad going to rebound and have a good season? Is JT Miller, now their captain, going to be that 80 to 100-point player? Big gap, but a point a game at least caliber player now that he's restarting a full season with the Rangers. How's Will Cooley going to adjust? Is he going to take some next steps into his game and enter a more offensive, albeit physical role with that club? How's the blue line going to look? And is Shesterkin going to rebound after a subpar season performance-wise for him last year? There are a lot of factors here for the Rangers that are going to dictate ultimately what they end up doing as the season progresses. But again, preface this by saying if a player like Kaprizov is available to them, I think they take the opportunity to pounce as soon as they can.
That would be awesome. Kaprizov, MSG, that'd be fun.
There are some other holdouts coming into the preseason. What team should be most concerned about their player not showing up?
It sounds like Mason McTavish. I think Luke Hughes and the Devils are figuring out an 8-year deal. Luke Evangelista in Nashville is going to be a 2-year deal once they figure out the numbers. They've been so off on the contract, and the demand hasn't, from what my understanding is, hasn't even been that significant. But it'll start with a 3 on a 2-year deal. I know Nashville offered 3 times 3. That wasn't going to get it done, but I think they're trying to focus on a 2-year. But it sounds like Mason Marchment, unless there's a significant change of mindset there from the Ducks, it sounds like that's the one that could linger more than anything. He went back home. He's in Ottawa. He's training with the Ontario Hockey League's Ottawa 67s right now. Evangelista, I think, is still in Nashville for the time being. But depending how long that goes, we'll see where that ends up. But I think right now the trickiest one seems to be McTavish, because it's a combo. It's not just the contract and money, and they're far apart on both term and dollars. But it's also just usage. He wants to know, is he going to take his game to the next level or be given that opportunity to claim a second line role on that club as a 2C and cement himself in that position? Is he going to get more power play time? What's it looking 5-on-5? What's his usage? He wants to develop and take the next steps in his career, whereas with some of the additions the Ducks made, there may be some barriers, at least optically, for him to do that in the next season or two. And that's part of the concern as well from his camp.
All right, so the Maple Leafs have lost Mitch Marner. Okay. And had they made any suitable replacements for him, or what is their season going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, you can't replace a 102-point player. That's for sure. And I'm just outside their practice rink right now, and the last couple of days have been a combo of, look, he's gone. It's a business. He made a decision, and we got to move on, which is the right mentality to have. I think the structure of the Leafs has shifted a little bit. Like, a lot of their success is going to be their big boys. Like, if Austin Matthews has, a 50-goal season, 100-point season, Tavares is in and around 30 goals. Willie Nylander's 90 to 100-point kind of player. Matthew Nyes takes next steps as a 70-point guy, cements himself as a first-line player. Then, that offsets what Mitch brought to the table. Plus, you got a lot more physical. Like, they're rolling out a third line right now that's centered by Nick Waugh, has Dakota Joshua on it. They're trying to find another winger on that right side. Like, that could be a grindy energy type line that could fit well for this club. That's what they're trying out right now. They're deep in their bottom six. They're more physical. They're bigger. The decor is the same as it was last year. Goaltending is the same. They were happy with that, as they should have been. But it's all going to come down to what happens up front. And it's a combo of the big boys providing the offensive flair and the third line and the fourth line doing their jobs in a two-way shutdown capacity, while also providing some energy to spark this group. It's a different kind of structure right now. I don't mind it. We'll see how Matias Maccelli does on the first or second line, how Max Domi does on one of those two lines. But I think Toronto's positioned itself decently, assuming the big boys do what they're supposed to do.
They need to stop lowballing their goaltender. Okay, the last question.
The goaltenders union.
Last question for me, Roy, if you'll forgive me.
He's getting there.
Dave, when we get to April of this season, what colored jersey will Sidney Crosby be wearing? It won't be black and gold and white.
Stop that! Stop it!
Where's Crosby playing when playoff time rolls around, Dave?
Man.
Where's he playing? Whatever golf course is close to Pittsburgh. Maybe he goes home to Halifax. He's not getting traded.
Ooh.
I'd be surprised.
Okay.
Very, very, very surprised, because there's a few factors here. One, it hasn't been official yet, but the strong belief is that this is Geno Malkin's last season, and I can't imagine that he's going to play his last season and Sid not be a part of that for the whole ride. The other factor is there are going to be a lot more changes coming out of Pittsburgh. More guys are going to get moved out. They're going through a full rebuild. Even with Sid, and Letang's got more term on his contract. Sid has one more year after this one. If they finish if they finish last and the balls drop where they do and they end up winning the draft lottery and get another potential generational player in Gavin McKenna.
Oh, God.
I mean, to have Sid there for one season to usher Gavin along is very reminiscent of when Mario did the exact same thing with Sid 20-odd years ago.
Bullshit. So, they're going to do this
again. They
again?
weren't the worst team in the league, though, when they got that lottery ball, first of all.
The NHL will make it happen. Sidney Crosby is going to
screw Florida.
He's going to get the benefit of the doubt.
It's just hard to imagine Crosby and Malkin, especially if it's supposed to be Geno's last season, going through we're trying to get the best lottery ball situation. Like, if that's what they're doing, fine. But it's just like, really?
Bullshit.
I think they know. Look, these guys they've got 3 rings. They've got $1 gazillion. They're gods in the city. Just ride it out. I think they're comfortable. Sid said this the other day. I know, and I even tweeted, like, he was giving out, like the Penguins do every year. He's giving out his season tickets to season ticket holders. And he goes, look, I don't know how many more times I can say it. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to finish my career. This is where I want to play. It's not going to stop people from speculating, but he's genuine in when he says that. Now, they don't win the lottery. Geno's out. Maybe things change for next season. Maybe. But I think this year, I would be very surprised if anything happens with Sidney Crosby.
All right, there you go. So we don't have to ask about Sidney Crosby ever again on the show. Thank you. Right. David Pagnotta, thank you for joining us. David Pagnotta, the fourth period, please check him out. He has all the scoops in the National Hockey League. Thanks, David.
Thanks, guys. See ya.